Hi guys, Brain here, and welcome to another video. Today, we're going to be doing our wonderful catch-up on our video of how you would fix, look at that face by the way, look at that beautiful face. We're doing a catch-up of the video, how would you fix Dead by Daylight. I wanted it to sit for a while. I wanted it to kind of like, you know, ruminate for a little bit because I didn't want to like cut off anybody's thoughts or anything like that. So I wanted to wait a little bit before we actually covered this, and it's been almost a week, or this will probably come out a week after. But essentially it's been a week, so I think it's time that we finally, you know, get into all these and read all these. I'm sorry if you wanted to add something to the conversation, you're more than free to do that in the comments below, but the ones I'll be reading will be from this video. So let's go ahead and get started, friendos. Okay, Renjiro has a lot to say, so I'll just say I have a few ideas and that have not been mentioned before. Blood Blessings is a concept for a new blood point event. It gives 25% blood points for every punishment, so it's the blood points event, even with the lowest order, requires every weekend. It would. Okay, it does not seem like they finished this thought, but you know, having it more, well, like, it's one of those things where it's like the blood point grind is getting way too intense with how many new characters keep coming out and how many new perks keep coming out. So I think anything that gives more blood points is great, but I feel like they need to tackle the issue of blood point grind in general over just making more events. It feels like it's like putting band-aids on something that needs surgery, you know what I'm saying? And I think like things like these are definitely cool, but I feel like we need to adjust the grind to be, or at least scale it to be more in line with the realistically how many perks are in the game and how many tiers there are. So yeah, Rosie, I love Rosie. Let's oh my gosh, Rosie had a lot of ideas. We have a lot of ideas. Some larger issues I wanted to see fixed, just the overall meta, but there's no simple solution. But as for a direct issue with the game, I would have to go with maps. I think their map size, inconsistency in generation, lack of visibility, too much visibility on some maps, and some tiles are way too strong, really hold back the game, not only in a front perspective, but from anyone being able to treat it competitively. I think if behavior took the time over the next year or so to make the map generation feel much better, we'd have a large change in how unfun or one-sided matches could be. Yeah, so like, and she keeps going, and I'll read that in a second, but like, if you want this game to be quote-unquote skill-based, which means the best person wins, the best player wins, you can't have the maps being as inconsistent as they are. The scary part of that is that's part of like the game's identity with like its asymmetry. That's part of like why we can play this game like infinitely, is that, you know, the maps are literally different every single time, even if they're aesthetically the same. Like the tile spawns are completely different every single time. So that's part of the reason it doesn't feel like we're playing the same game over and over and over again, you know? So, you know, while streamlining the maps definitely would, you know, help us more determine, you know, who the best player is, I think also it's like you got to be careful about that, because obviously you have the danger situation of like, well, now, you know, my brain is dying, help. That it kills off a lot of the asymmetry is what I'm trying to say. It kills off a lot of the asymmetry. I just don't think we should have a situation where you can have Lampkin Lane and Dead Dog in the same rotation. Yeah, because that's completely different outcomes, right? Like a killer on Dead Dog is probably going to do way better than a killer on Hanfield. Like it's just crazy, you know? So like it's almost like skill-based matchmaking should not have been a thing in a game that's so unbalanced. So either she is right. You have to do this like, you either have to streamline the maps or you just gotta like take out skill-based matchmaking. I don't think they'll do either. I think they'll just leave it the way it is. But yeah, you definitely need to like pick and commit to either the unbalance or the skill. So yeah. One thing is map generation. Every match should be viable for every exhaustion perk and every killer power. Yeah, it sucks when you run balanced and it's just you get Shelter Woods and you're just like, well, I guess I just don't get anything now. Also, you know, she brings up the possibility of like Trapper on indoor maps, you know, where it's just like, oh, well, my traps are just out in the open. I brought the dye to darken the traps. Doesn't matter. they just all look, you know, they just all stand out because not in the open because there's nowhere to really hide them. It's not even like Larry's where sometimes there's grass, or like Hawkins where there's the crumbly bits, the debris. Maps like that you just kind of can't, you know, hide traps. Blood Lodge with any stealth killer is another good example that she brings up. is like some maps are just so open that you just can't play a specific killer. And I think that's why it's hard to play killers like Myers and Ghostface consistently, is because of this exact issue she brings up, is that some killers, as a result of the maps being this way, are just like so, you know, map dependent, and it sucks when, you know, especially since we're trying to determine the best player now with skill-based matchmaking, that something as simple as I got Blood Lodge instead of like Hawkins means that me as a stealth killer is just going to get sauced on, which is sad. Okay, so we got Noctimus, so we're going to talk about their intended changes to the game. We're going to try to skim like we've been skimming, because everybody feels really passionate about this stuff, and I really appreciate that you guys put so much, you know. But I don't want this video to be like 40 minutes long. Or maybe we will. Who cares? Screw it. It's my YouTube channel. Unwarranted face camping killer against survivors also made me gen rushing and 99 gates at the same time. And the precursor to this is these are things that lead to really boring or frustrating things in the game that need to be changed. Where sometimes it's impossible not to tunnel or face camp just to get one kill in a match, but let's be honest, there's no one out there that'll find staring at your computer screen watching your in-game character be helpless and hang on a hook and not able to do anything productive for a whole 2 minutes fun, regardless of whatever killer may be doing so. Waste of time for the survivors, the one on the hook and the rest of the team who lead us out the same fate. If they go to the rescue or do 5 and watch progress bar field up as well as the killer. I mean, yeah, so like, it's hard. And I don't think I have a fully formed opinion on this yet. And I'm still feeling out how I feel about this, because like camping a survivor on a hook is just a way for the killer to catch up. Like in theory, that's what it does. It's like, oh well, you know, I have this guy on second hook. I plop him on the hook, and then 3 gens pop because they had like a bunch of them 99'd. And then suddenly, like, I'm about to lose the game out of nowhere. I'm at like 1 gen, and I have this guy on second hook, but that's it. That's my pressure right now. So he's going to camp that guy if he has any inkling that somebody's coming around, because he needs to take the pressure back in the match. Whether that be, you know, hitting people that come for the save, confirming the kill on the guy in the second hook. Like, it's just one of those things. It's like the killer's trying to take back the match, right? But at the same time, like they are right. It's just kind of like objectively like not fun in any way for the survivor. And like, it's like that, to make an off comparison, like in Phasmophobia, when you die to the ghost, like you can just throw things and that's it. You just kind of like wait around for your friends to finish the match. And Dead by Daylight has that exact same situation with the gens. Even if the survivors react like correctly, which is to, you know, rush all the gens out because you're the one stuck on hook, you had essentially a bum match. You had to waste a match. So that's not the greatest. But like, I don't know how to fix that. Right? Because like, I feel like killers already have so little ways. Ooh, excuse me. I feel like killers already have so little ways to like catch up in the game. Like they have so little ways to like catch up, because survivors do have more strength in this game, as they should. But it's a little bit of an overwhelming strength a lot. If a survivor team is wanting to be as efficient as possible, you're just going to get blasted. So there's got to be ways around that. So you can't just be like nuking those. You gotta like have something that the killer can do to combat that. You can't just like take those out flatly. So it's a hard topic. It's a really hard topic. So you definitely need some tweaks in that. It's constant solution. Survivors who are hooked over there's 2 times will be in a momentary death state where they able to interact with anything in the trial, but they can still spectate. Yeah, I think that would be cooler. But also, you know, this is, you know, we return back to the comms conversation. It would be cool if you could spectate your other survivors while you're on hook. I think that would be neat. But at the same time, like, you know, that makes, you know, comms even stronger, because now you can literally spectate mid-hook, which is, you know, you can coordinate your own save now. You know, like, that's like, it's something. It's something you got to think about. Whenever survivors hook, however, whenever a survivor is hooked, every unrepaired generator and unopened gate switches will be blocked. During the time, the survivors will be forced to complete an event. And after completing that, the survivors in a momentary death state will be revived. I don't like this. I don't like this because, like, this seems like really extreme. Like, really, really extreme. Like, No, I'm not like upset with the idea at all. It's just, it seems like, okay, so now you're going to give the survivor on hook like a bunch of info that if, you know, if they, even if they have, if they're only like 2 people in comms, you're giving a ton of information out, which is really, really strong. But also all the gens and the exit gates are blocked, which is also really, really strong for the killer. It doesn't seem like this is like trying to, it doesn't feel like it fixes the face camping issue. It just feels like this just gives super strong things to both sides without really addressing the issue. You know? Like, it just doesn't seem like it, it just doesn't seem like it addresses the issue, you know? And I think, like, where, you know, where you mentioned that it's indefinite duration for the first 2 hook stages, that kind of defeats the purpose of the urgency to get your teammate off hook. Like, you can just, like, leave him there. You know, there's like, and that kind of like ruins that urgency. Let's see, large maps, which hinders the killers from being able to pressure gens quickly. I agree. Most of the time, I don't think gen speeds are broken. I think brand new parts are kind of BS, but other than that, like, gen speeds aren't broken. The problem is that gens are spread out on huge maps, which makes it like super hard to defend them. That's what's the annoying part. I'm not sure it'd be practical. Here's the solution. What if killers, and as far as whether the minute speeds increase by an equally substantial amount? Well, if you increase them both, everything's just the same. Like, I don't think that would help too much. This would have almost the same effect in reducing map size. I mean, I guess you're right. I guess you have a point. What do you think about this? Survivors won't be moving around the map this much. Well, yeah. So what I say initially still stands, because if you just increase both their speeds, like, the survivors are just going to be able to also escape and go do other gens. Like, I get your ideas, like, if we make the killer faster, the killer's gonna go and, you know, be able to, like, show up on gens a lot quicker, which makes sense. But if you also make the survivors quicker, you know, they just get to leave the gens earlier and get to another gen quicker. So it's, you know, it doesn't actually solve the issue. The way that would work would be just to put the gens, or shorten the map sizes and scoot the gens in, because if you just make everybody faster, the games like the matches just go by quicker. It's not like the problems disappear. Effectiveness of totem perks based on RNG. I'm sure it's not too easy. You can complain at least once about your hex totems being cleansed in the first minute. Yep. Mostly because your totems spawn really far away from you typically, and that's where the survivors spawn, because they don't want to spawn survivors right next to you in like the next like 3 or 4 tiles that are around you. So your totem spawns far away, and that happens to be where the survivors are. Probably tons of suggestions. I suppose there should be multiple hex totems for a single hex perk. That the strength of the hex perk should be based on the remaining amount of totems. Yeah, this is, I think somebody mentioned this. Somebody brought this up. It would like it was like it might have been Tofu. Tofu brought up this idea that like totem perks are progressive, like they're all like Devour Hope, where, like, you know, Ruin starts off at 100% regression, you know, starts off at 100% regression, but there's like 3 totems on the map, and each break takes off 33% until that way, like, you know, it's not just like, oh, your totem's gone and now you have to, you know, you have to play the game without, basically as a 3 perk Andy. That, like, it would incrementally, like, you know, decrease. But this only really works with, like, perks that have, like, a flat number like that. Like Hex Blood Flavor. Like, how do you increment that? It would require a lot of reworks. I think this would still be a good idea. Like, ultimately, I still think this would be a really, really good idea. And once again, like, we're trying to patch things that are mostly problems with, like, how, like, behavior has made things. Like, totem spawns, like, totems, like totems aren't bad. Totems don't need to be buffed. Totems just are like, the map spawns with the totems usually spawn them next to the survivors, or they spawn them really, like, way out in the open. That way they're super easy to cleanse. So, like, and I think we've seen that when they've done some remakes of certain maps, like, that some of these maps have really good totem spawns, and those are great, you know. But, like, in general, I don't think we should be having to, like, go to a specific map if we just want to run a totem, you know. Like, I feel like that's silly, that's weird. Which goes back to what Rosie said earlier. But yeah, I feel like if we could figure out a way to make this work, this would be really cool. That, like, you know, it's incremental power, and it's not all your eggs in one basket. Some people would argue that that's the whole point of totems. And I'm like, I don't think so. I think the more fun we could have, the better. The Dark Killer, just one idea because there's too many things that could be fixed. The game should have some way of detecting if survivor was tunneled out of the game early because if the killer wants to. Yep. I completely agree with this. Depipping because you got tunneled or face camped sucks. Absolutely sucks. You are being punished for something that is not your fault. That needs to go. The game, 100% agree. The game needs some in-game way to figure this out and to see this, because this is just dumb. Absolutely dumb. Completely agree. The Dream Zone. Honestly, DBD is just getting old. Same thing. Need to add random special game modes, like lights out mode. Yeah, like that stuff's cool. It's different. New ways to play the game. Yeah, so like, kill your friends should be more than just playing a normal match of Dead by Daylight. It just should. There's really no excuse for it. Like a single, like, kill your friends should allow you to like play with like 4 killers and no survivors and just run around. It should be like, you know, we can affect the map spawns, which would be great for comp, by the way, for those of you that are in the comp. Like, if you could, you know, literally go in and, you know, change the map spawns to what you want, you can make a consistent map that's balanced. That way, you know, you really are seeing who the best man is, you know. But like, kill your friends should definitely have more control than just, you know, it's a normal match of DBD, guys. Like, that's just dumb. You know, maybe it's like a find the totem. Like, there's got to be more. There's got to be more. The reason they don't do this is because their queue times are already so bad. They don't want to make them worse by splitting game modes. But if they just like dumped all that and they kill your friends, I think it'd be fine. Let's see, Kirk. Survivors will now trip at the end of a dead hard dash, slowing them and blocking their reactions if the killer does not swing. I don't know about that. I hate dead hard. I hate dead hard a lot. I don't think they should trip at the end of it though. Yeah, I think dead hard. I think the problem is with dead hard is they gain it too easily, not that dead hard itself is a problem, if that makes sense. Like, dead hard is incredibly strong, don't get me wrong, it's one of the strongest perks in the game, but like, I also feel like it would make more sense if what they were doing was A, more skillful, or B, required them to do something to get, you know, like, it's just like they got, like, it feels cheap when all you do, like, you didn't do anything to get dead hard, you just got injured, and as long as you don't get dedicated by the server or press the button at the wrong time, you essentially get out of a situation for free, and that's really annoying, and that's why people hate it. It's like Nurse, you know, like, if a Nurse sauces on you, yeah, it's kind of boring because it, like, she just like bulldozes your team, but like, the amount of like time and effort and skill that they're putting on display is respectable, and I think that's what dead hard does not have. It doesn't have the respect because you do nothing to earn it, and something happens to you and you go, woo, now I get free invincibility, and as long as you don't screw it up, you essentially get an extra loop or make it to a pallet or window, and it's just dumb. It's just dumb. But I don't think adding a punishment to using dead hard would be the right way to go. Now causes more exhaustion. Sprint Burst Lithe causes more exhaustion. See, like, exhaustion perks are just broken. Like, let's just say that, like, up front, exhaustion perks are dumb. And I know somebody's gonna be like, what about head on? What about balance landing? Okay, you get your special little. I made an exception star. It's called an exception. That is what we call an outlier in the data. That is not how we define everything in the data. Thank you. Thank you for your input, friendo. But exhaustion perks, for the most part, are just like eons stronger than every other perk in the game, and are just like leagues ahead. They're not just better, they're leagues ahead. So I feel like something needs to be done to exhaustion perks to bring them more in line with the other perks, because they just are way too strong. Like, just way too strong. They just do so much for so little. Like, all of them do that. Sprint Burst, Light, they all do so much for so little, and they often take the place of most other perks in the game if you have the option to run something in that same slot, because they are so powerful. And I think it's a problem that they are so strong, so they definitely need to be nerfed in some way. Decisive Strike is deactivated if another survivor is... No, I think Decisive Strike is honestly fine. Like, the Decisive Strike, after its big nerf that it got, I think it's fine. I think it's okay. I think when somebody runs around and literally does nothing for 60 seconds and then DS's you, it's annoying, but like, they literally aren't contributing to the game. You know, they're not. I think it should deactivate when you touch an exit gate. That's something that they overlooked. But other than that, you're fine. Iron will only decreases your grunts pain by 75%. I don't know about that. I think Iron Will's fine. Adrenaline now exhausts you for the remainder of the trial once this is activated. Maybe. I think at a certain point, like, it might make adrenaline useless. Might make adrenaline useless if you do that. But I do like the idea that, like, you know, this was my last burst. Like, this is it. You know, it's the adrenaline kicking in. You know, I would be cool with, like, you being exhausted for the rest of the trial if the effect you got when adrenaline kicked in was a little stronger. I know getting a full health state and zooming is already really strong, but, like, if you're going to be having that big of a drawback, you got to increase the positive side. Borrow time is not base kit. I agree. If you want to stop tunneling in this game, borrow time needs to be base kit. You shouldn't have to run a whole perk slot to prevent tunneling. It's really dumb. It's really, really dumb. Every long wall jungle gym except for Azeroth. Why except for Azeroth? Have a breakable wall to the side of its window for this from the palette. See, I don't like breakable walls in general as a I get your point, because you're like, hey, let's make these super strong tiles at least somewhat more manageable, but you got to take time to do it. I just hate breakable walls in general. I think they just are there to slow down the killer, and this could be a good way to, like, integrate breakable walls in a way that would, like, make them useful and worth breaking down. But once again, it's like, I don't know about this. I'll have to think about this one, because this one seems like, yeah, because, like, you get in this situation, because, like, what if this is like Shelter Woods? Just think about this. What if it's like Shelter Woods and you barely have any tiles and the one that spawns has a breakable wall? like that would suck, dude. That would be terrible. Yeah, I'll have to think about that one. I don't know. Shack now has an additional doorway at its backside. Back over the basement, steps end. I understand the point of this one, because people have been talking about, like, the basement being too strong lately, and the basement potentially being not good. And I think, like, I don't know how I feel about, like, there being an extra door. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about there being an extra door, because it's interesting, because, like, basement can spawn in Shack, but sometimes it can't. That is kind of like a buff. That's kind of like a buff to Shack if, like, it's kind of like a buff to Shack in terms of the basement, but the basement doesn't spawn there. The killer can just cut you off easier, which is, I don't know how I feel about that. So I'm gonna think about that one. Generators now need one car wheel to repair the first percent of progress. I wonder. Yeah, people have talked about this before. Is like, finding parts around the map in order to repair the gens. That way it's not just hold M1 and hit a skill check, and that's the only gameplay involved. And I appreciate the idea of, like, wanting to, like, make the gameplay more interesting, and also, like, have survivors, like, actually traveling throughout the map for some reason. I think where this idea gets dangerous is if, like, you do all this stuff, you do all of this effort, and then they have ruin anyway. You know, like, you do all of this, all of this stuff to finally start working on the gen, and they just have ruin, and you're just like, oh, okay, so I did all that effort, and now, you know, ruin's just a thing, and now this is a problem. Now, like, I think, like, this would be cool to happen either way, and hopefully we would get a nerf to, like, gen slowdown perks in conjunction with this. I think that would work. But if you just drop that, that's just kind of like a weird buff to gen slowdown. Gen regression, regular gen regression should be 200%, so if you hit 98, the rest is 0, and 360. Making dry kick. I don't want to focus more gameplay around the gen, because the gen is already so boring. Like, the gen as an objective is already such a boring and unfun part of the game. So, like, it worries me, the idea of, like, adjusting things in terms of, like, making gens take longer, because gens are already boring on both sides. Nobody wants to kick gens. And nobody wants to just sit on a gen. Nobody wants those things. Just nobody actually realistically wants these things. They just don't. So, like, I don't know. yeah, I don't like the idea of making gens take longer, because gens are already boring on both sides. So I don't want to encourage killers to more, you know, kind of like puppy dog guard gens, and I also don't want, you know, survivors feeling compelled to just like, you know, cling to the gens, because the gens are the boring part of the game. They are the objective for the survivors, but they are the boring part of the game. So I don't want more mechanics around like slowing down gens, having gens take more gen time, having slowdowns be stronger. I typically don't go for that sort of stuff. Chloe, hello. I love Chloe. Let's see. How would I make DB better? I just want to do these. Partner with someone who knows what you're doing when it comes to block VPNers. Yeah, VPNers need to go. VPNing needs to go. There are some games that are very, very strict about VPNing, and DBD needs to be that way too. Because when somebody's VPNing in Dead by Daylight, they are like hitting you from like a meter away, and basically your gameplay doesn't matter. And that it happens more often than you think, and it needs to go. It just does. It just you need to do something about people VPNing from very, very like and just getting these ridiculous hits and all that stuff. That stuff needs to go. Let's see. Next thing, I just want to just stop trying to make it a comp game. Yep. The game is incredibly unbalanced, so either you work hard to balance everything, which is going to be a very, very long process, or you just take the skill-based matchmaking out. Those are your options. And I bet you guess that neither of those are going to happen, so. Let's see. Sitting on gens is just a one-button skill check. Nancy, it's unfun. Yep. Taking away the most fun aspect of the game, which is the chase. Yep, the chase is the most fun aspect. The chase is the gameplay. Like holding M1 on gens is just kind of like the way you win as Survivor. But like the gameplay is in the chase. But like, you know, we seem to be minimizing that. But we are trying to unminimize that with like, you know, spirits, nerfs, and slingers nerfs. So that's pretty cool. Casual night. I don't think you're ready for this, but here goes my fires of frustration into one comment. I'm going to miss you. Oh my gosh. You guys are so passionate about this game, and it's actually so cool. Issues with the game is map size. Yep. Majority of set maps in this game are way too big. Survivors need to spawn together instead of being spread out across the map. Yep, because that just benefits them. If they want this, if they want to spawn spread out, they need to bring an offering for it. You should not be getting that for free. You should not be getting that for free. You just shouldn't. You should not. Things like walls and short roll need to never ever spawn next to near check. I agree. Like those dirty setups where we're trying to determine the best man, or like that you don't like, unless the survivor's like super bad, like you can't counter that. Like it's just like you just kind of like spoon fed the survivor the victory, and it's just really lame. Need a cache system, long walls 15. I think they do use a cache system. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong about this, but I think they do use the cache system, and I think like that's the main issue with the way maps respond, is that they undervalue or overvalue certain tiles. Like L wall, T wall is a little more valuable than it should be, and like a long wall is with a window is like a long wall jungle gym with a window is like greatly undervalued. So that's why the maps seem so like all over the place. Medkits need a nerf, and the medkits are really strong and really strong. I don't know how I would nerf them though. It shouldn't take like seconds to heal yourself. Because commits 15 seconds to game. Yeah. So like if a team is like all brings medkits and you're trying to just split hits to get pressure, they can't just run away and heal themselves, which is really obnoxious. Which is why it's like one of the strongest items in the game, like period. I don't know how we fix that though. This isn't something the fixed player just doesn't understand. Killers, please can we get an update? Dozens of outdated perks. Yep, which is what they're trying to do right now, which is really good, is updating the a lot of perks that just have no point. And I think, like I've discussed in another video, I think the problem is that the S tier perks, like the exhaustion perks, are just way too strong, so there's no incentive to run the other perks. So like you got to bring up those lower perks, but you also got to bring down the high tier perks, which is what they're not doing. Let's see. You need to focus on map balance and or fun before worrying about making it look pretty. But the game is really nice looking, which Casual Knight points out, which I do agree. I do like the aesthetic of Dead by Daylight. I prefer the little, like, kind of like the watercolory aesthetic they were going for at the beginning, but this is fine. New game mode we've already talked about. Let's see. Who thought of boon totems? Well, that's PTB today when this video goes up, I'm pretty sure. So we'll see how they work. They're AoE right now. So like we'll see how that actually pans out. We'll see. I'm just exhausted of DBD and want a new asymmetrical game. VHS is coming out. Thank you for video. I wouldn't change that much from Potato Weaver. I wouldn't change that much, honestly. DB overall is in a good place to me. However, there are a few things. First of all, survivors, I want borrowed time-based kit. Yep. For the killers, I'd have gens be 50% slower before the first chase. That is an interesting point that I've also heard people come up with, like a beginning game collapse, not an in-game collapse, but a beginning game like warm-up, where like gens aren't like max speed until like a chase happens. Yeah, I think this would be interesting. I think I would like that. I don't know if it would work out, but just on my base of my feelings, I would like that. Just so it's like, you know, because there's so many times. Because this is why, like when we're talking about like gen rushing, like the typical like actual term is like, you know, somebody's on hook and you decide to do gens at their expense, right? That's like gen rushing. But gen rushing is kind of expanding as like a term. I think it now it fits where it's like you have a normal chase at the beginning and it's a quick chase and gens still finish. Like you get 1 or 2 gens that just still pop even though you didn't technically do anything wrong, so you're being punished for not doing anything wrong. It's just really dumb. it just doesn't feel good. And some people will retort and they'll say like, well an organized like group or people in comms will just send one person your way to start the chase right away, and then, you know, they'll start on the gens and you'll be in a similar situation. Yeah, but like at least chases are happening. At least the game's actually being played. You know. Okay, Snom says, first of all, the UI just doesn't fit the vibe of DD. It generally looks like a mobile game. I agree. Even after they took away the terrible one, the really terrible one that we had earlier, like I still hate it. First, like the counter, you can tell what Survivor is on the UI, but just looks ugly. I agree. I definitely agree. That I would mix up the UI for sure. Burn, give back the old player hub. Yep, I agree. Old movement. See, that's a cool thing. I've been watching a lot of old DVD lately, just cause. And like the old movement looks a lot more fluid than what we have now, and it's really weird. It's really weird because like that stuff's been in the game for a really long time, and they just recently took out. So you think like the new stuff they'd put in would look more crisp, but it doesn't. It doesn't. Yeah, it's just it's gross. BT, oh, we're almost done. Progressive Lotus, BT, DS, Corrupt Intervention, and Lethal should all be base kit. That's a lot to have base kit. BT, I agree. DS, though? Decisive Strike base kit? I don't know about that, Chief. Corrupt Intervention? Also don't know about that. Just a whole slowdown that you just get for free. Lethal, too? Like, seeing everybody at the beginning of the match? I don't know about that. BT, I agree with. I don't know about the rest of this. Also, maps and tile spawn need to be fixed. We talked about this earlier, where it's like, you know, while that would help determine the best player, that would also kill a lot of the asymmetry. So it's something. Shrink maps. Yep, Tyler's right. We've talked about that. Make it always kid. Oh, okay. Clearly, this is the best suggestion. Yep. Understood. Understand. Get survivors. Oh, okay. Some of these are great. Some of these are good. We ended on a very funny, positive note. Thank you, Small Brain Onion Luffy, because that was a funny way to end this. So we got a lot of responses, like a lot, and a lot of really in-depth ones too, which is really helpful. And I really appreciate you guys that took the time to write all these out, because you guys have a lot of good ideas. I think like DVD is a hard game to balance because like you want to change things that like make you feel like the game's working better, but it might conversely like really screw over the other side. So you got to be like really careful about what you change. Like this one, I'm not picking on you, Kirk, I promise, but like having like Dead Hard, despite being such an annoying perk, like having them trip and block their interactions, like you don't want the other side to feel like shit because of like or like, you know, gen regression should be, you know, twice as fast off of a dry kick with no slowdown. Like you don't want the other side feeling like shit and like feeling like what they're doing is pointless or boring, even if like a change needs to happen. So that's why balancing games is rough, dude. It's like really rough because you got to take both sides into account and balance both sides, and it's hard stuff. But like that's kind of like, you know, the point of our experiment and what we were like, you know, what we were trying to, you know, determine. So yeah, thank you so much for everybody who put in their input into this. Hopefully we had a good conversation and discussion about all the you know, all the suggestions that you guys made. Otherwise, I don't think anything else for you. Thank you so much for your input, friends, and I really appreciate it. If you have anything else to add on how you would fix DBD or in response to the things that were said in this video, put that down in the comments below. If you like it video, actually do the like thing. Also, we are powering through those that 1K goal, man. We're already past 500 and we're full steam ahead. So thank you so much for those of you who've helped so far. But if you're looking right now and you're not subbed, consider subbing, because the YouTube algorithm is kind of annoying and it won't show you my videos even though I upload daily on the front page, just because I don't know, YouTube's just weird. Algorithm giveth and it taketh away. So if you want to make sure that you're seeing more of my videos, that's probably the best way to do it. And if you hate it, you can just take it away. Not permanent. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, friendo, and I will see you when I see you, buds. Goodbye.